What's up, Fantasy Champions? Spotlight Sports Network is excited to tell you about an amazing deal from Thrive Fantasy, your place for daily fantasy sports and esports. Right now, with promo code SS Network, Thrive Fantasy will match up to $50 of your first deposit. So go to thrivefantasy.com and sign up now with promo code SS Network. That's thrivefantasy.com, promo code SS Network.
Do you like the Oakland A's? Are you a fan of the Golden Knights? Do you love the Los Angeles Chargers? Well then, my friend, you're in the right place. This is the Snake Sports Talk Show with your host, Jake the Snake Silva, brought to you by the Spotlight Sports Network.
Oh, well, all right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I hope all of you guys have had a fabulous, feastful, and of course, many thanks of givings in your Thanksgiving just this past week. We appreciate you guys hopping on here. This is the Snake Sports Talk Show wherever and however you may be watching and listening today. We are live in the 702. We're all over Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, Periscope, and also on Twitch. That's where you can like and follow all of our social media platforms. And also subscribe and hit the bell button for all of the latest notifications on future live stream shows on the Spotlight Sports Network. Really do appreciate you guys jumping on here. What's going on, Eckler fan, Butcher's Block, and Patriots Talk? We definitely got to talk and link up later on, man. We definitely got a lot to talk about. Key in the building, always up in the building. What is going on? What's going on, Iverson Vlogs? I'm definitely going to end up getting into that. So I hope all of you guys have had a great, feastful Thanksgiving last week. I know I did for sure. Loved enjoying every single moment with my family. We had great dinner. We know it was kind of an unprecedented time, but we made the absolute best of it. So I hope all of you guys have done so as well. So I've got a lot to unpack on my shoulders today. What's going on, Jake Britton? So let me just start with this. This week's been very interesting. This week has been very, very interesting in the NFL. And you know what's kind of funny? So we ended it obviously with today's game with the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh now is 11-0. And Baltimore right now is on the shortest stick, and they are definitely on the ropes. And I'm gonna explain all of that a little later on, but I just want to start with this. So right now, I mean, last time I was on, I talked a lot about teams that are going to need quarterbacks. Because right now there are a bunch of them. Teams are not sold on. I mentioned about one particular team, and that was the Philadelphia Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles, we know right now, they are a mess. Monday night, they're playing against the Seattle Seahawks. Russell Wilson, I thought, looked really good. And there were a lot of question marks in Seattle in the beginning of the game because there were a couple of fourth down conversion opportunities that they were just testing. And a lot of people were all saying they don't respect the offense. I don't even think it's the offense that they're really antagonizing. They're trying to antagonize the defense, and they paid the price Defense ended up biting them where it really hurts. And I thought defense played really good for Philadelphia just when they needed it. So, of course, a lot of people, they're going to continuously go back to this whole debate about this Foles is better than Wentz thing. And, Carson Wentz, he's just inconsistent. He can't throw better and all that. Listen, I don't know what the problem is in Philadelphia. Monday night, Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman were all in the stadium for one particular reason. They are doing the exact same that you and I are trying to do. That's figuring out what the Eagles' real issue is. They really are. Because they don't know. Is it Doug Peterson? Is it Carson Wentz? What is it? Let me just tell you right now. Because I think we think back to years ago with the coaching trees between Andy Reid and Bill Belichick. And let me just tell you exactly the coaches who I think personally who are very successful out of the coaching trees. Let's start with Belichick. Belichick, the coaching trees that they've had under his system. Currently, you've got Josh McDaniels. He goes to Denver. And mind you, Denver drafts Tim Tebow. We all remember that year. Okay, Tebow had the magnificent run, and then it was cut off. And then the Broncos did not look like themselves. Then Josh McDaniels gets let go and then comes into New England under Belichick, and he's their offensive coordinator. Eventually, the torch is going to get passed down. That's my belief with New England, but only time will tell. Brian Flores, defensive coordinator, and of course was a linebacking coach. He's doing very successful in Miami. Miami's defense has been reshaped. People thought this team was tanking, but I don't think tanking was the word I would have used last year. They won games late in the season, winning 5 of 6. They deserved Tua. Now, I don't know what the guarantee and the possibility is of Tua being Miami's future. But Brian Flores, you already know, is very successful. I think he's reshaped this defense massively, where the defense has not even allowed a lot of points. They've been making a lot of stops. They had a bunch of 3-and-outs. This year has been much better improved for Miami. Matt Patricia, as we know, defensive coordinator for New England at the time, winning Super Bowl 51 against the Falcons, and that was where the important stops were needed after they were down with a bunch of points, the miraculous run, yeah. Well, he goes to Detroit. And just this past week, they fire him and they fire the GM, Bob Quinn, because things aren't working right now in Detroit. Things aren't working right. So, that point, not successful. Detroit now needs to look elsewhere. And then here's Joe Judge for the Giants. Okay, Joe Judge was a special teams coach for New England. I did not see too much into Joe Judge until what I'm seeing currently with the Giants. And the Giants right now, they may be 4-7, but this is probably the best 4-7 Giants I've seen. I was very scared of the defense because of the fact of they don't even have any big names on their secondary. I wasn't sure how the linebacking core was going to favor, but you know what? They've underestimated it. And so at this point, they look great. Dexter Lawrence is looking really good on the front line. Blake Martinez is a ball-hogging machine when it comes to takeaways. And this Giants team is buttoned up. My only hopes, fingers crossed, that Daniel Jones is healthy. If they cut out the fumbles off of him, I think the Giants will be a very successful team in the East. I really do think that. And amongst teams like Philadelphia, Dallas right now, that's a mess. Washington, I think the future is very bright for them with Ron Rivera, but they're only about a quarterback away from making the process better. Now let's go to the other side of the coaching tree. That's Andy Reid. Andy Reid, as we all know, is an offensive genius. He's an architect. That's why things were successful in Kansas City. And they still are with Patrick Mahomes. Okay, he's got the special quarterback. He's now got a Super Bowl win. Everything's great. Let's talk about some of the coaches that have been under Andy Reid's tree. Matt Nagy, Chicago. One of my colleagues, of course, he's going to love for me to talk about this, but at the same time, he's got his reservations. And I know the reservations and the frustrations he has currently with Chicago. But let's talk about that. Matt Nagy. Matt Nagy, personally, I mean, I think he's a good coach, but he's far from great. He's had some good breaks, but right now this thing with Chicago is not working. The defense is really good, but they can't seem to figure out their identity. The offense can't even generate any first downs or any scores, and you're paying the X amount of money now for a quarterback who comes in at a time where Philadelphia needed to execute the job and seal the deal to win a Super Bowl. Nick Foles. Foles gets paid all this money in Jacksonville, hurt shoulder, he's done. Then he gets traded to Chicago. Now Chicago's eating up the contract. And you're dealing with Mitch Trubisky, who right now a lot of people are not sold on. And Chicago's getting the worst end of the stick with it because they whiffed on quarterbacks. They whiffed on Deshaun Watson. They whiffed on Patrick Mahomes. They whiffed on a couple quarterbacks that year. And they go up to the number 2 to pick up a kid in North Carolina who we didn't even see a whole lot of film with in his senior year, and that's who they draft. Ryan Pace, the GM, right now, he's on the hot seat. And things are not looking right with Chicago. Chicago has already lost a bunch of games since starting the year at 5-1. This is not looking good for Chicago. And so this is where it's going to fall now with Doug Peterson and the Philadelphia Eagles. Doug Peterson, I honestly thought he was a good coach the second he took the job. Because it seemed like Philadelphia was running into a direction where it seemed bright. Defenses was getting better. Offenses have a couple of really good pieces. They ended up adding Alshon Jeffrey on the trade from Chicago to Philadelphia. The only problem Philadelphia had was the run game. And they traded up. They go and get Jay Ajayi in Miami at the time. But they settle up for a young kid in North Dakota State named Carson Wentz. And I thought Carson Wentz, accurate deep ball thrower, I think is also somebody who could open up space out of the pocket and so much more. What's going on, CB? So now, and what we're starting to realize is, I think part of the issue right now with Philadelphia, they're missing Frank Reich. And Frank Reich, who was a former quarterback in the league and is an offensive mindseted genius, not to the point that we look at, Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan, but he's good enough. And now goes to Indianapolis, where he's working with Phillip Rivers, but I don't think that relationship's going to last long. They're missing him. And I think Frank Reich, as a quarterback whisperer, was the only person who knew all of Carson Wentz's strengths and his tendencies. Carson Wentz is reckless. We know that for a fact. I know a lot of people have been telling me, even my colleagues and the network have been telling me, Jake, you defend Carson Wentz too much. I've been telling you about Carson Wentz. He's no good. He's terrible. He's inaccurate. He could just kick rocks. Yeah, I've been hearing that all day. And one of my colleagues who's in this chat knows it much, much better than I do. Covers Philadelphia sports on a daily basis. That's including the Eagles. And she had even told me she's done with Carson Wentz. And listen, I'm trying to be the balancer between the two because I don't know what the real problem is in Philadelphia. But right now, things don't look right. I can't tell if it's the coaching because I think part of that is because disciplinary actions and controlling the flow of the game when it matters most. But I'll tell you this. When I watched that second half of that Monday night game, I thought Carson Wentz, he looked like himself. He looked like himself. He was accurate of the football. He finally ended up getting passes to Alshon Jeffrey and to a bunch of players. But what do you expect with all these injuries and then working with lawn chairs and, discounted furniture for wide receivers? What do you expect? And here's what's also interesting. So I also ended up getting the notification that Zach Ertz and one other player is going to be coming off the COVID list. So they're going to get Zach Ertz back. Now, I'm not sure how big of an impact that can be, but he has missed him. But again, injuries have played a role in Philadelphia. But the other problem is they're so stuck in the past. I can't begin to tell you how many times when I watched that Monday night game, how many times I watched the cameraman point to the banner. Stop it. Just stop it. 2017 is over. It's over. You won the Super Bowl. Whoop-de-doo! What are you doing now? What is your plan? You know what New England did after they won a Super Bowl? They got better. Even if they lost that Super Bowl to Philadelphia, what did they do the next year? Oh, they win again. And then they beat the LA Rams. You got to have a plan in place. That's what Philadelphia needs. They're too stuck in the past because, hey, we did a job. The Philly special, Jay, it was the most amazing play ever. And we're going to build a statue for Nick Foles. We're going to have this and that. It's party time in Philly. Party's over. Party's been over since 2017. It's time to start buttoning up, and it's time to make some serious changes. I just think that moment where Jeffrey Lurie and and Howie Roseman being there on Monday night clearly tells you right now what serious changes the Philadelphia Eagles need. But listen, I love Carson Wentz. He's an accurate thrower of the football. But right now, this reckless play and these inaccuracies and terrible play calling is not working. And I like Doug Peterson, but right now, this is this is where it's getting really, really interesting. But I can't figure it out with Philadelphia. Okay, let me shift over to this. So speaking of coaching woes, obviously, there are a couple of teams that are going through that. Okay. Detroit, we know they're not sold on their head coach. Matt Patricia's gone along with their general manager. Adam Gase is still in New York, and, I don't know why they haven't closed the case on that. And there are so many other head coaches in this league. There's one I will say. There's one coach that I'm just like, I'm over it. But this team, I've been saying this for the past couple weeks because right now they've got a quarterback that they did not expect for him to play out of his mind. And I'm talking about the LA Chargers. Justin Herbert, oh my God. Like, he's balling out of his mind. He's an accurate thrower of the football. Deep ball throws, it's dimes. I mean, you could say what you want to and how great Patrick Mahomes is. That's no doubt. But I think here's what's interesting to me. When I look at Justin Herbert, I'm thinking of the Brady and Manning era, and then also John Elway and Joe Montana type of year. Because they were very dynamic in those eras. Okay, San Francisco won 4 Super Bowls with Joe Montana. John Elway ended up winning 2 Super Bowls with Denver late, but he was still a threat when it came to the playoffs and when it came to the regular season. I feel like this is what's shifting in the AFC West. Because Kansas City, you got Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. That's all you need. That's all you need. Nobody expected Justin Herbert to play this good. But let me just say this. This team, when you look at the roster from top to bottom, they are way too good to be 3-8. This team is way too good to be 3-8. They are filled with Pro Bowlers, former Super Bowl champs. They've got it all. And by the way, General Manager Tom Telesco is probably one of the smartest guys you'll have in the NFL. Okay, there are a lot of smart general managers out there, like Brad Veach in Kansas City, who shaped this thing well, who took a risk at Patrick Mahomes, and they got a Super Bowl out of it. And again, these general managers, the ones who can see outside the box, make it happen. And right now, Tom Telesco took a shot at Justin Herbert because eventually they needed to move off of Phillip Rivers. You can't have an inaccurate, you can't have an unathletic quarterback, in a pocket presence type of guy. Even though I like Phillip Rivers, I think he's very competitive. I respect that. But this game is changing. This game is getting faster. And they took a chance at Justin Herbert. They drafted him at number 6, and he's balling out. He is balling out. But this coaching staff is not cutting it. Anthony Lynn, Gus Bradley, Shane Steichen. It's terrible. It's terrible. You already know what Justin Herbert is very capable of. After Joe Burrow went down with an injury, and after Tua got benched in that 1 week in Denver because of a lot of struggles, and listen, do you really blame him? He was sacked 6 times in the game. And that's where the offensive line needed to protect him better. But this is the thing about the LA Chargers. For years, okay, Dean Spanos, the Spanos family, they've been known a lot to be very conservative. Conservative in this league is not going to get you anywhere. It's not. You're clearly seeing that with the Chargers. You're even seeing that with a couple of other teams who play this conservative role, but they're not unleashing their full potentials in any of their teams. Any of them. And that's what's killing the Chargers' possibilities. And listen, you are living in Los Angeles. You're no longer in San Diego, which I never understood the move, and I don't think I ever will. But these have been the moves of Dean Spanos. Okay. Date back to 2006. The Chargers, they had a head coach in Marty Schottenheimer. Marty Schottenheimer that next year went 14-2. And then they cut him. They settled for Norv Turner instead. And Norv Turner, who has bounced around in the league as a coordinator, as a coach, he's very conservative of his plays. And you started to see the play calling, the decision-making be very, very conservative. So there was a million small pass plays that were made on by Norv Turner. A million of them. Then they go and settle for Mike McCoy, a college coach that he was a big-time bust. I don't know what the hell that hiring was, but that was terrible. And now here we are with Anthony Lynn. And listen, I like him. I think he's a well-rounded guy to be honest. But I'd hate to be in his shoes right now because he's just not cutting it as a head coach. He's not cutting it. Right now, the Chargers are in Los Angeles. What does Los Angeles have? Los Angeles, the Lakers are fresh off of an NBA championship. What did they do? They signed LeBron James, bring him to Los Angeles to revive this organization. And what did LeBron ask for? Oh, he asked for Anthony Davis. What's going on, 5 Minute Sports? Really do appreciate the love and support, man. Thank you. Hit the like, hit the subscribe button, man. Appreciate it. They needed Anthony Davis, and they got a championship with him. That's the big thing. The Dodgers. Okay, the Dodgers for years have been fighting to win the World Series. So after the Lakers get Anthony Davis, they said, oh no, we need something bigger. And they go and get Mookie Betts. And the Dodgers now are World Series champions. That's the one big thing that they make. The Clippers, because they know how competitive the Lakers are, they went and got Kawhi Leonard because they needed competition in Los Angeles. The Rams, with Sean McVay and Jared Goff, I mean, the two work, but they went and got Jalen Ramsey, and they got a bunch of really good stars, and you got Aaron Donald there as the catalyst of that defense. That is scary as all hell. And the Rams are making their mark. The Chargers right now, they are in the most beautiful position. They cannot afford to screw this up. When you live in Los Angeles, you either make it or you break it badly. Because Los Angeles, you can get burnt very easily if you don't make the right moves. Because let me just tell you, the Chargers have had years of dealing with this. They had Dan Fouts, the missing rings era, with him and the Don Coryell, the coaching method with Air Coryell, Charlie Joyner, Kellen Winslow. That was the missing rings era. And by the way, that defense was scary. And you know what happened when they didn't end up getting to the Super Bowl and winning one? Oh yeah, majority of that defense went to San Francisco. And so then, since then, they've been jumping around from different quarterbacks, and they were dealing with quarterbacks like Doug Flutie and Jim Harbaugh until they finally got to Drew Brees. But then it wasn't until 2006 when the Chargers were just like, Drew Brees is hurt again. He hurt his shoulder. He's not looking good. So instead, they draft a kid out of NC State named Phillip Rivers. And now the quarterback controversy thing since 2004, yeah, we all remember that. And it was back and forth. Drew Brees now goes to New Orleans and becomes successful. They win a Super Bowl eventually. And the Chargers are going, well, how? We didn't see that cut. Oh, yeah. What was the reason for that? Oh, yeah, your conservative playing. And not to mention the offensive line was not strong enough to protecting Drew Brees. That's the difference. And that's the one thing. Here we are again. Phillip Rivers had conservative coaches after Marty Schottenheimer and then after moving off him, it got conservative. The team made it to the AFC Championship game, but came up short against New England. And that was the end of it. They got conservative. Then Denver ended up reigning. The Raiders got better. Kansas City's unbelievable. And the Chargers right now are trying to figure out how they can keep up. This is the time. Because they moved away from Phillip Rivers. He's gone. And they've got a great kid in Justin Herbert, who I think, honestly, and this is what's funny, Colin Cowherd said this in the air on the Herd this morning. He is Andrew Luck with a bigger, better, accurate arm, and he moves around the pocket. He's unbelievable. He's so fun to watch. This is a kid that is a huge splash they did not see coming. They need a big move to winning a championship. And my big thing is they need a big-time head coach. You need to spend the money on a head coach. And right now, who's giving the high praises to the Chargers right now? Oh, yeah, the guy who's been coaching, who has 6 Super Bowls on his belt, that's Bill Belichick. Belichick had opportunities in New England while and even after Tom left. Mind you, he loved Tom. He absolutely loved Tom. He got the job done. He was very much the type of quarterback that you give him an assignment, he's going to do it. But you can't rely on Tom Brady forever. That's why they had to deal with Matt Castle, and they had to deal with Jimmy Garoppolo and Jacoby Brissett. And then what did Robert Kraft do? Well, Matt Castle goes to Kansas City, and then Garoppolo goes to San Francisco with Kyle Shanahan, and then Jacoby Brissett goes to Indianapolis. Now you're settling for Cam Newton, and you're settling for Jarrett Stidham, who I have the hell if I know anything about Jarrett Stidham. But if I'm Bill Belichick right now, and I'm looking around this whole thing, defense is going to be good. That's no doubt about it for New England. But I look around the whole roster. I've got no wide receivers. I barely have a tight end, and I barely have a working quarterback. And I had a quarterback I was working with Jimmy Garoppolo. This week, the Chargers are playing the Patriots. This is a testament to what could be a potential that the Chargers have to make. You have got to make a move. Because in order to make it in Los Angeles, you have got to be making moves that are going to be successful. The Rams, the Dodgers, the Lakers, the Clippers, they all done it. Right now, it's the Chargers' move. And the Chargers are not that far away from winning a Super Bowl. Mind you, folks, that roster from top to bottom is stacked. You just got to have a capable coach who can work with Herbert and could absolutely exceed on all levels. I feel like Bill Belichick is definitely the guy to do it. But this is where the Spanos family, you got to pay it. You got to end up paying hard-earned money if you want that championship so bad. Listen, me personally, and I don't like to say this on the air as a fandom, but I've been a fan since I was 7 years old. Now's the time. Now is absolutely the time. Because Bill Belichick had an opportunity to building a young quarterback, and Bobby Kraft screwed that up. Traded everybody because he was very Tom Brady loyal. He was Tom Brady faithful. And then eventually, when Tom left for South Florida, what do you got? What do you got? If I'm Bill Belichick and I'm looking at the Chargers right now, I've got wide receivers, I got tight ends, I got running backs, I got a defense, I got a much better structured offensive line. Maybe I can make it better. And then I've got the quarterback, which Andy Reid needed that. So make your move. Make your move. Because right now, it's all on your shoulders, Dean. It's absolutely all on your shoulders. Coming up next, right now, Aaron Rodgers is playing out of his mind. He's having an MVP caliber season. Very much deserves it. But right now, Green Bay is going to be kissing his ass for the next couple of years until the time that Aaron Rodgers is out of Green Bay. And I will explain to you everything of what I think about with Green Bay coming up next. And then, of course, I'll be talking about the NBA. And I haven't talked a lot about Major League Baseball, but I'm definitely going to end up talking about that coming up next. So all of my fantasy champions up out there. I know there is a lot of you here in the chat line, but have you ever thought of a fantasy app or a website that you can put your money's worth in, okay, and win up to $15,000 in pool play? Well, there is a place for that. It's called thrivefantasy.com. And it deals with a lot of sports, all the major sports. It also has golf, also has tennis. Hell, it even has esports. You can bet on it. You can bet on it in pool play. You can bet it on roto head-to-head matchups. All you got to do is put in $20 in your first deposit. And when you do, when you sign up and when you go online, download the app today, use promo code SS Network, short for Spotlight Sports Network. Thrive Fantasy, when you put in $20 in your first deposit, Thrive Fantasy promises to match it to $50 a play. So you're getting a little bit more money in your pocket, and you can spend it, place your bets today, and win some money. Like I said, the pool plays right now are up to 15 grand. You can't go wrong with that. So want to have some fun and make some money? Go on to thrivefantasy.com. Enter promo code SS Network and start playing today. That's promo code SS Network.
What's up, fantasy champions? Spotlight Sports Network is excited to tell you about an amazing deal from Thrive Fantasy, your place for daily fantasy sports and esports. Right now with promo code SS Network, Thrive Fantasy will match up to $50 of your first deposit. So go to thrivefantasy.com and sign up now with promo code SS Network. That's thrivefantasy.com, promo code SS Network.
So, I got a great announcement here for you, because I actually had just gotten the text that my delivery, one of my special packages that I have from the network, has actually arrived here in Vegas. And I am super excited about that, because it's actually merchandises from the network. So I cannot wait to end up showcasing it to you guys. I will be showcasing that later on after the show. I will make sure to be posting it up. And by the way, if you have not already got your merchandise repping your favorite show on the network, on the Spotlight Sports Network, go do it. SpotlightSportsNetwork.com/merch. We've got hats, we've got t-shirts, we've got hoodies, we've got masks, we've even got cell phone cases and mugs. We've got all that stuff. All the good stuff where you rep the network, you rep your favorite shows and your favorite hosts on the shows. We appreciate the loves and supports, and definitely show your support today. Go to SpotlightSportsNetwork.com/merch. So, since we ended up taking that small break, I just have a lot of things to say about Green Bay. And listen, Aaron Rodgers is having the season. He's having the MVP caliber season, and it's his birthday today. And he's playing out of his mind. And Aaron Rodgers right now, he's flexing on everybody. He is absolutely flexing on everybody. And Green Bay, listen, Aaron Rodgers is great. Like a lot of great quarterbacks, Aaron Rodgers is great. He's the golden boy. He's got the golden arm. He's very accurate. Accurate throw of the football makes it happen. What's going on, Marcus Moore? He's great. Aaron Rodgers is a hell of a quarterback. Can be brittle at times. He can also be a little bit of a hard ass, but he's great. And when I look at the Green Bay Packers right now, with everything that is going on, they look stupid. Green Bay looks absolutely ridiculous. Aaron Rodgers right now having a great MVP caliber season. What am I looking at right now with the Green Bay Packers, and why am I not high praising them? Well, there's a reason why. Because Green Bay over the years, since the Super Bowl against the Pittsburgh Steelers, they had a defense. B.J. Raji, A.J. Hawk, Clay Matthews, Charles Woodson, Atari Bigby. They had so many really good players. Oh, thank you so much, Marcus Moore. I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for subbing in. I appreciate it. Guys, we're on the road to 300 subscribers here up on the show, and we're actually on the road to 1,000 subscribers on the network. So let's keep subbing away. Share with your friends, share with your family. Really do appreciate the love and support. But right now, Green Bay's defense is not that intimidating. If you look at it by the numbers, they are not the type of team that pretty much kicks your teeth in, puts your head right in the grass. Like, they don't bury you, okay? They're not the type of team that likes to take the football away. They're not the Raiders. They're not the Giants. They are not Miami, and Green Bay, even though that this offense and it's all Aaron Rodgers working this thing, okay? And he's got, and I'm crossing my fingers, hoping that Davante Adams, because I think he's a really good, he's a number 2, number 3 ranked wide receiver in this league. But if he gets hurt again, they're not going to move the football as much. You already know that. And the Packers, in that draft, they moved up in the first round and they drafted a backup quarterback in Jordan Love. Where's Jordan Love right now? He's a third-string quarterback. And Aaron was not happy when they ended up drafting that quarterback, and he's playing out of his mind. You clearly know right now that's not one of Green Bay's issues. Green Bay's issues was not having a secondary wide receiver to Davante Adams to keep him healthy and keep him on the field. The linebacking core now, because they let go of Blake Martinez and a couple of other guys, so they are not as intimidating. Then the defensive front line, so much more. I'm not intimidated by this team. And don't get me wrong, they are going to win out their games. They are going to win out their games. They are, they're going to put up the points needed. They're going to put up, 30 plus a game, a game. That's what they've been doing all season long. But then when they come across big time defenses, okay, Tampa Bay pushed them all over the place. Todd Bowles knew exactly what he needed to do against Aaron, eliminate all of Aaron's weapons, and they got pushed around. He was not comfortable at all in that pocket. He was not. And Indianapolis, here's the thing. They were leading Indianapolis in that first half, and then eventually Indianapolis only coughed up 3 points in the second half. They were pushing them around, and that big thriller in overtime. You could say what you want about Aaron Rodgers all day, but let me just tell you this. Aaron Rodgers is the reason Green Bay is still competitive, much like Russell Wilson is the reason Seattle is still competitive. Right now, Seattle actually fixed their problems. They got Carlos Dunlap. They got Jamal Adams. They got so much talent there. But it had to take them years because the Legion of Boom is done. They didn't end up winning a second or a third Super Bowl at that time, which I really thought they could. And then eventually it was done. Everybody was gone. And Pete Carroll had to start this thing from scratch. But Russell Wilson continued his reign of excellence. And that's why you always see Seattle on the map in the playoffs and further and beyond. Because that's who Russell Wilson is. Aaron Rodgers, golden arm, ridiculous, unbelievable. If you had to ask me as far as which Packer quarterback I would choose, I would definitely choose Aaron Rodgers. He's smart enough that he's got an accurate arm and he is going to make the plays. Because let's be honest, Brett Favre was a gunslinger. Brett Favre and I think Bruce Arians would get along just fine because they are all about no risk it, no biscuit type of thing. But eventually, you lead the league in picks. It tells you a lot about yourself as a quarterback and your judgment call at the position. But Aaron Rodgers is the only reason why the Green Bay is still competitive. You can't deny that. Without Aaron Rodgers, to be honest, Green Bay is not attractive for free agents. They cannot attract a lot of free agents. Without him, they are not a good team. They would be falling apart. you really expect Jordan Love to come in right away and pull off a Herbert or a Joe Burrow or a Patrick Mahomes? No way. He's too raw of talent, and I think he needs a lot of work. Aaron had the same thing. He was under Brett Favre for a couple years until his time was ready. And then we all fell in love with Aaron Rodgers. But Green Bay's not that intimidating. And right now, they are seriously kissing his ass. But you know what? You didn't give him a wide receiver. You didn't give him this or that. Tom Brady, New England didn't give him everything he wanted. That's why he goes to Tampa Bay. And now he's got all these wide receivers. And I know how a lot of people feel about Tampa Bay right now. But listen, Tom Brady, if you look by the numbers, he is not that bad. He is still Tom Brady. He is still smart, accurate. He just can't do this no risk it, no biscuit crap with Bruce Arians. That's it. Aaron Rodgers, all he's asking for is a wide receiver. And he's asking for a more intimidating defense. Right now, you're not getting that in Green Bay. They let all their linebackers go. Secondaries don't play the same. And, look, they're like that fancy car. They're like that fancy car. Flashy, drives down, the Vegas Strip every night. But then, when it comes to durability, they're not that durable. They're not that durable. Flash it out, show it off, flex it, all that stuff. But I'm all about longevity and durability. And right now, Aaron Rodgers is the only person who is really holding this franchise together, but they are not durable. They are not durable. They are not reliable. And that, I think, is what is going to be the downfall for Green Bay in the near future. Time now for the hot press. So I just ended up getting latest news in the college football world, and of course being here in Las Vegas. But the news right now, what's going on, man? What's going on? So UNLV and Boise State, they were supposed to play here in Allegiant Stadium. That game had got canceled. There is no rescheduling or anything like that. The Las Vegas Bowl now has been canceled. So already these shutdowns are starting to happen. So I just have quick news with that. So I just got this, and I'm very, very glad one of our favorite fans here on the network and on the show, Iverson Vlogs, mentioned this to me. But the Houston Rockets and the Washington Wizards agreed to a big time trade. So the Wizards are acquiring Russell Westbrook from the Houston Rockets, and they are exchanging John Wall and a first round pick. So listen, Russell Westbrook, he's a real good hyper athletic player. Okay, there's no doubt about that. I think they are going to end up getting a lot of points, and they're going to end up getting a lot of scores, and they're going to win games. But will they truly win the big games? I don't know. But I do love Bradley Beal. I think he's a really good kid, and I think there is potentials behind that. But if you had to ask me right now with Houston and where they're going, even if they got John Wall, you don't have a backboard. You do not have a backboard defender. You had one named Clint Capella, and then the Westbrook contract pretty much ate you alive, and you had to trade him away. You had to do this and that. So Houston right now is still in the air with as far as if this team's going to get better or whatever the case may be. I think it's going to be very interesting to watch John Wall, and who knows what's going to happen with James Harden. I just can't speak so solely on it yet until I know it's for real. We know the Christmas special. We know the Christmas schedule has come out, and I'm going to talk about that a little later on. So, obviously, the Ravens ended up losing their game today against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh is now 11-0, still undefeated. Not sure how long that this is going to last, but right now, I mean, Baltimore. What was nice about the game? There were no more positive tests, so everything was A-okay. They were ready to go after having 19 players on COVID list. That was James Conner, Lamar Jackson, a bunch of guys. And they ended up losing 19-14. Right now, Baltimore, I did not expect this. I did not expect it at this point, but I am seeing this. Was defense really Baltimore's issues? Because they got an awful lot of defensive players. What's happening right now, and that's what's interesting. Trace McSorley is very interesting, but I can't move the hype yet. Let's slow down here for a second. Let's just hit the brakes for a little bit. Let's just reevaluate this. What does Baltimore do right? Well, Baltimore's got one of the best premier defenses. Okay, that's no doubt. Marcus Peters, Patrick Queen, they do have a lot of really good guys. Offensively, let me be honest with you. They do not have an over-the-top receiver. That is what has been Baltimore's problem. They do not have an over-the-top receiver. Are you telling me that you're going to rely on Marquise Brown to be your number one wide receiver? Good God, really? Like, nothing against Marquise Brown. I think he's a really good kid. I think he's got good speed and he's got good hands. But right now, he's getting double, if not triple the coverage from a lot of these big-time corners. And it's showing for itself. And Baltimore, with Lamar Jackson, he's been so overly reliant on Mark Andrews to saving the day, getting him out of situations. That's what Baltimore has been having. So to me, he's very predictable. I've said this already a couple episodes ago. I think Lamar Jackson, we're starting to see him become predictable because he's now one-dimensional. Okay, he relies a lot on his legs. Very transformative when it comes to that. But as far as a thrower, being an accurate thrower of the football, it's still in the air. But the problem with Baltimore, they do not have an over-the-top receiver. That's where they should have addressed it, because this wide receiver class this past year was so deep, and it's even deeper come next year's draft, because right now Jamar Chase is definitely one of the big headliners out of LSU. There are a bunch of guys up out there in college that right now they are very valuable. From rounds 1 through 3, possibly 4, you are going to end up getting a number 1, number 2 wide receiver right away. That's what I think Baltimore needs to address. They need to address this correctly. So I think it's going to be very, very interesting. So the Chicago Cubs ended up making a huge and interesting move. So Kyle Schwarber right now, they non-tendered his contract. The former 2016 World Series champion, he is now non-tendered and making him a free agent after 6 seasons with the team. Also, they tendered the contracts of Chris Bryant, Javi Baez, and also Wilson Contreras. So they made that big move. And mind you, there are going to be a lot of teams who are going to inquire about Kyle Schwarber, because it's a universal DH league now. So National, American League, they both got DHs. And I do love that, because at the same time, pitchers are only needed for one thing. If you're a starting pitcher, you should be focusing on giving me 6 quality innings. And then you have relievers as well. But I understand, too, it did give some competition when it came to seeing the ins and outs and the situations before it even happens. And that's where, you separate it from managers. You separate it from the boys and the men. Kyle Schwarber has a powerful bat. He has a powerful bat. Big time. Like, he's definitely one of the top free agent markets when it comes to designated hitting. And there are going to be teams that are going to inquire about having a universal DH like that with a power bat. I know he had that injury years ago that kept him sidelined until the Cubs won the World Series. And that's where it's going to be interesting to see where his stock is. But right now, I'd say he's a real big fish. He's a real big fish in this free agent market. And whoever inquires about him to being their everyday designated hitter, they're going to absolutely love it. They're going to absolutely love it. And so I think this is going to be very interesting, but I have a lot to talk about as well with baseball, and we've got plenty of time for it. So that was your hot press. So I'm looking at this NBA schedule, and I'm looking at this up here on this Christmas special. And this is really, really good. This is really, really good. A lot of people are talking about it. They're looking at it like, a lot of people, like I talk about LeBron James an awful lot. Why? Because LeBron James is the greatest basketball player that's ever walked the face of this earth. And there have been a ton of greats. Michael Jordan and so many others. But once again, LeBron James, he's nabbed with Christmas. He's nabbed with the Christmas starting lineup. And I think it's going to be great. But let me just tell you the ins and outs about this one. So as I'm looking at this schedule, and I'm looking at exactly what I'm getting to start this year off. So this is what the NBA has got. Yeah, I've got the Pelicans and the Heat. I've got the Warriors and the Bucks, the Nets and the Celtics, Clippers and the Nuggets, and then the Lakers. They're playing the Dallas Mavericks. Let me just tell you right now. The Heat and Zion, and the Pelicans. I mean, look, Zion, the Pelicans, I already told you is going to be a playoff team, but I don't think they're going to be as great right now as what the Lakers are looking to be. And the Miami Heat, they're fresh off of going into an NBA Finals, unfortunately losing it. But Jimmy Butler, he's gained a lot of respect. He's gained a lot of credit. And I think it's been a great run for him. It's been great. But the Miami Heat, like in the Pelicans, I don't even think is a big-time headliner, to be honest with you. Because you're looking at a young Pelicans team that I think is going to win the games. They made a massive trade that they got a lot back in return. This team's already a playoff team, in my opinion. And Miami, I think, is going to end up going back to they're going to get back into the playoffs. We already know that. That's not going to be the big headliner. Golden State and Milwaukee. Okay, you got Milwaukee making the moves because they're trying to keep Giannis. They know how valuable he is to this lineup. And that's why they ended up making the moves that they did. But to me, there are limitations to Giannis's game. There is. And that's why a lot of teams in the Eastern Conference and even teams in the NBA in general, they all see it. They all see his limitations, and they've taken advantage of it. Golden State, they've lost Klay Thompson for another year because of the torn Achilles. But the surgery was successful. I'm very happy of that, and I do wish good health for him. But you're getting Steph Curry back, and who knows what's going to be happening with Draymond Green. But Golden State, they are right now on the competitive sides because they've got to rebound themselves back. The Lakers are fresh off of a finals victory, and the Western Conference is just getting even more stacked as it goes. So Golden State has to now rebound themselves back. But Bucks and Warriors, that's not a big headliner. Nets and the Celtics. Okay, Kevin Durant, I'm excited for him because right now, like the Nets, this is going to be interesting with Steve Nash. This is going to be very interesting with Steve Nash. I think he's capable of this coaching job because he's the type of guy that loves to spread the floor, loves to get everybody opportunities. But mind you, you are dealing with Kyrie Irving. And the other part of it is, too, there were still some rumor buzzes about James Harden and the Rockets. That's why in the Christmas special, they did not add the Rockets in there because of the fact of we don't know what's going to happen with James Harden here overnight. We don't know what's going to happen. But I'm excited for Kevin Durant because I would love to see a rebound of him coming off of injury, off that terrible Achilles heel injury. And I think it'll be interesting to see how he plays because he had been anticipating it. He had been very much anticipating it. I'm here for Kevin Durant, but I'm not here for the Nets. And then the Boston Celtics. Brad Stevens is a hell of a coach. And they've got a lot of young, talented players. Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Marcus Smart, Taco Fall, a lot of guys. And they just got rid of Gordon Hayward to Charlotte. Boston is still going to be competitive in the Eastern Conference. But right now, with this headliner, it's not even a big enough headliner, in my opinion, just respectfully, just by seeing this schedule, even though I'm happy for Kevin Durant to be coming back because it's been so long since we've seen him play. And then Boston, with their futures being bright, it's great, but not great enough for a headliner. And then finally, the Clippers and the Nuggets, real quick. I think it's a good matchup because here's the thing. The Clippers have Kawhi Leonard. He's great. You got the claw, very defensive, but he's nonverbal. He's nonverbal. You don't really hear so much about Kawhi. You really don't. That's where I think kind of hits the headliners pretty badly. And by the way, Denver, I love Jamal Murray. I give him respect. I give him credit. And I love Nikola Jokic. But this is yet again another young team that who knows now what this season's going to pan out for. But this was very interesting. I think it's still competitive. But this is now where I'm going to sum it up. The Lakers and the Mavericks. LeBron James has been great in this league for 17 years. And he's only getting greater. There's no stoppage. And who is the one person that I feel like the headliners had to fit this right? They had to look at a young kid who came into this league from overseas, who's putting up 30 points a game, about average to 8-10 assists a game. And this kid is a great all-around player. That's Luka Doncic. This next year, I'm going to make a point. I think this is the year Luka's going to win MVP. Luka's very much going to end up winning MVP for this year because looking back at what he's done already, and Mark Cuban made a huge splash getting this kid from overseas. The way his play style is and what he brings over now to the NBA is beyond comparison. And this is a kid who didn't end up, he didn't end up coming out of the drafts and everything else like LeBron did, who was a big time headliner. But I'll make an argument that I feel like Luka Doncic is the second up and coming. He's just in a different pathway. The kid is putting 30 points up a game. 30 plus. And he is very transformative. Right now, I look at what the NFL has with all their quarterbacks, but my God, when I look at this headliner with LeBron James and Luka Doncic, I think that's a hell of a headliner. Because what I feel like when it's all said and done, and I feel like at some point when we have a passing of the torch moment, which we always do in sports, I feel like Luka is going to be that capable guy. I do feel that. Kawhi is great, but he's not verbal. Nikola Jokic, ridiculous. I've never seen anybody at a center position who could open up the floor. But he's not the one. Kevin Durant, he's a great scorer. But even so, he suffered injuries. And there's so much more. That's why I feel like this game between the Lakers and the Mavs, it's all about LeBron and Luka. And I feel like that particular moment right there, Luka Doncic is going to win MVP this year. And I think we're going to have so much potentiality with Luka there. Because now you got Kristaps Porzingis, Tim Hardaway Jr. I thought was really, really good last year, especially in the bubble. And this Dallas Mavericks team, they're not that far away themselves. They're only about a few pieces away until they make this thing work. I think the hardest loss was getting rid of Seth Curry, but they're not that far away. But from what I'm seeing right now, Luka, and from his pathway, even though it may be different, he looks like he's a second up-and-coming LeBron. Just his pathway, he came overseas to come into the States and play basketball. And right now, not a lot of people are sold on that, but you can count me in. You can count me in because I am loving what I'm seeing from this. I think this is a great headliner. Take a break, and when I come back, we're going to be talking a little bit more up on baseball. We're going to be wrapping things up. Hour and a half show. But man, I'm just getting started. Ain't even close to finishing up yet. But be right back. We've got a lot more to talk about here on the Snake Sports Talk Show. So right now we've got a lot of hot deals on merchandises. When you go online to the spotlightsportsnetwork.com/merchandise, go to the merch section, and rep your favorite shows here up on the network, even rep the network as a whole. Really do appreciate your guys' love and support that you give every day here on the network. But definitely support, rep your gear today. That's the spotlightsportsnetwork.com/merch. So I haven't talked about baseball in a while, and I was actually kind of happy that, I get to talk a little bit more on Kyle Schwarber and everything else. But I got something that I want, and I really want to end up talking about, because I talked about this way back. And I ended up giving my opinion on it, and I thought this was great. So I started talking about, obviously the Houston Astros and their cheating scandal and, and everything else. And I seriously thought this was really, really good. But I ended up talking about one particular person out of that cheating scandal. I started talking about one manager who right now just got himself a job with the Detroit Tigers. That's AJ Hinch. And I said something about it, that I said AJ Hinch was going to be back. He was going to be back. And I think he is very much going to shape up this Detroit Tigers organization. There's a lot of young players. You got veterans as well. I mean, you still have Miguel Cabrera that you have left in the lineup. But this Detroit Tigers team is going to be very interesting in the Central. Right now, the Cleveland Indians, they've got a really good pitcher with Shane Bieber, and he's fresh off of a Cy Young candidacy, and he also got the Triple Crown, the pitcher's Triple Crown. Kid was phenomenal. And Kansas City, they're kind of a in-between team. Minnesota, we know, has won the division multiple times in the Central. But right now, there's some shakeups. There's some shakeups kind of going on. And there's so much more. But here's the thing. In the Astros case in 2017, we know about the garbage cans. We know about, the buzzers and all the other stuff. I unloaded. I tore the Astros a new one. And even Major League Baseball, because, listen, I can't stand Rob Manfred, but there were a bunch of things all throughout, this year that I think he has done right. First of all, implementing a bubble that I think has worked successfully. And at the same time, Why flip-flop these teams from different, from both these leagues? Why would you flip-flop their home stadiums? It doesn't make any sense. Why would the Dodgers have to play in Arlington while the Astros are playing in Dodger Stadium? That doesn't sit well with me. I just don't think it sits well with me. And especially with how Dodger fans feel about Astros being in there, on their field, I don't blame them. But I tore the Astros a new one because Jeff Lunau, AJ Hinch, Alex Cora, they lost their jobs. And you've got Jim Crane, the owner, who I think he had maybe one of the worst press conferences I've ever seen. The PR department had to have been embarrassed. And everything that all went on there. The players got immunity. None of them were suspended. But yet, even throughout this year, they still managed to make the postseason. They made it to the ALCS. They got cut short in Game 7 against the Tampa Bay Rays. But this was one that America and myself was never going to be prepared for if the Astros went to the World Series again. We were all never going to be prepared for that. Because after all of the investigations, the scandals, and so much more, it was a mess. It was an absolute mess. But AJ Hinch, the manager, he was gutsy enough that he came on to MLB Network. And one of the famous writers and analysts, Tom Verducci, he sat down with them, had this documentary about what happened during that time with the Astros. And he came clean about it. He knew it was wrong. They knew they got caught for it and paid the price. And he served his suspension well. And then not to mention Carlos Beltran also lost his job. He would have been a Mets manager. That got cut off. The Red Sox now have just rehired Alex Cora. And I'm not sure how that's now going to pan out after losing him that year. And then now you regain him back. But I'll guarantee you this. Jeff Lunau is not going to have another job. He's not going to have another job. I don't think Beltran is going to have another job anytime soon. But this is a revival. And I think at the same time, this is a time of clarity for AJ Hinch. And I said this episodes ago that he will be back again to manage. And I think he is going to manage this the best way possible in Detroit. Detroit has a bunch of young players. They need something. Because right now, look around you in Detroit. The Red Wings right now, they're in this superior rebuild mode that they are trying to get the right pieces for Dylan Larkin and a lot of guys. The Lions, they fired their head coach. They fired their general manager. They got nothing. And they need something. Listen, I'm not going to be surprised if Detroit ends up drafting a quarterback, whether it's Trey Lance, Justin Fields, whoever it may be. But they need to get something here in Detroit because Detroit has been an irrelevant franchise for years. Nothing has been working for them. And then you finally have the Pistons. The Pistons, they've been off and on after the NBA Finals championship with Ben Wallace, Rip Hamilton, Chauncey Billups, a lot of these guys. And Detroit, by the way, was not known as largely since they had, the Detroit Bad Boys with Isaiah Thomas and so many others. That's it. So they need something. And the Tigers, the last time going to the World Series was 2012, and they got swept by the Giants horribly. I think AJ Hinch, this is going to work. I think this is going to work. Now, I do not know how long the season will be. I keep anticipating just play 100 games. Take 62 games off. Just play 100. 100 or at least 90. because 60 games was super short. It was super fast. Just play 100 games, 190 games. We could have made that happen. But of course, ownerships, players, this back and forth, all this money stuff, especially during a pandemic, it was ridiculous. But I mentioned that Hinch was going to be back as manager because he came clean. He knew it was wrong in Houston, and he got the opportunity with Detroit. And I think this is going to work out beautifully for him. I think this is going to work out beautifully. And that's why I was like, I haven't talked so much of baseball, and I wanted to talk about this so bad because I do remember covering this a couple episodes back, before even joining the network, by the way, before I even became a member of Spotlight Sports Network. I covered about that. I was so pissed. I ripped the Astros a new one. It was bad. But good for AJ Hinch. I hope the absolute best of his future for this. And I think this is going to be well for Detroit. So, all right. So my best for last now, since I have it during the week, I'm going to take 5 winners and 5 losers of this week in the NFL. And it could be anybody, whether it was a win or it was a loss. Doesn't matter. But I'm going to end up distinguishing why I think they're winners and why I think that they were losers. So let me start now with the winner side. So the number 5, I think that we're winners. I'm going to start with the Giants. The Giants right now have very much shaped themselves as a much improved team. Defense is better. Your only hope right now is Daniel Jones stays healthy. But this is a really, really good future for the Giants. I did not expect this out of Joe Judge, and I underestimated him. I underestimated him as a coach. He can coach in this league, so I'm very excited to see what's going to happen here with them in the near future. But I do think the Giants were winners, in my opinion, this week because of the fact of winning their game and improving their record. Now, I know they ended up playing a banged-up Cincinnati team, but still, this team is getting better. Even amongst the worst division in football, they were absolutely winners, in my opinion. So, number 4, I do feel like, and I got to put them up here, it's the Cleveland Browns. Here's the reason I put Cleveland as winners. This is the first time in a long time, since 2007, that the Cleveland Browns have won 8+ games. Here's why they're winners. They got a grown-up in Kevin Stefanski. He is definitely a coach in this league. He understands Baker's limitations. He's not letting him throw the football X amount of times. They're relying on the run game, and that defense is good. That defense is really good. They were definitely winners this week because despite all of like the stuff we talk about, and of course, you know, the Jags are a horrible organization. We already know they're tanking. Okay. They're 1-10. That's no big whoop, but the Browns, Kevin Stefanski's hitting this right. I mean, Kevin Stefanski knows all these ins and outs, and I give him props because Cleveland is not an easy organization to find those things, but he is making it work. He's definitely a winner at number 4 for me. The Tennessee Titans. Okay, right now, like Tennessee, they kind of came across a roadblock. They were losing some games. I was kind of getting concerned. But Derrick Henry, he's been red hot running the football. Defense, I think, is shaping up much better. They got their payback win against the Indianapolis Colts, who, by the way, the Colts are number 1 defense. And I thought that was a very impressive win on the road in Indianapolis. And I think Derrick Henry, like he was cooking. He was absolutely cooking. And I do feel like that that Tennessee, for the remainder of the schedule, it's not going to be easy. But I do feel like they are grinders in this league. But I do feel like that if they have the same impressive plays for the next couple of weeks and the next couple of games, they're going to be just fine. And that's where I have them as winners in my opinion. The New Orleans Saints. Now, listen. To me, the Saints, yes, they played a quarterbackless team in the Denver Broncos. Okay, COVID happened. It happens. But the Saints, I did not expect that out of Taysom Hill. He's playing good. Give me at least 2 more games with him. If that's the case, if he's playing really, really good, then what I'm going to end up saying is I think New Orleans' future is intact if Taysom Hill plays the way he does. I think if he does that, and he's not super one-dimensional, and he's a guy that can be an accurate thrower of the football, I think it can be interesting, and I think the future for the New Orleans Saints can be intact because they do have a really good defense. Cameron Jordan, Malcolm Jenkins, lots of guys. I think they can make this work. But that's where I'm like, I just truly think that I just truly think that this is all panning out well. So I have them at number 2. And my number 1 team I think that is winners this week is definitely the Seattle Seahawks. Seattle, they fixed their problems. They got Carlos Dunlap. They got a pass rusher. Then they ended up getting Jamal Adams. The defense is much better than I thought it would. And Russell Wilson, he does not ask for much. But all he expects is that he has the right role players there to help him. And I think he's got that now. The team is much better. And I think Pete Carroll is working with this beautifully. And I think Seattle, let's just see what the next couple of weeks pan to be. But I think they fixed their problems. They fixed their issues. It's about time. But I think this will be very interesting. But I think this is going to be exciting for Seattle in the long run. And I do kind of see, I kind of see this team potentially going to the NFC Championship game. But I have to see what the rest of the season is going to pan out for them. So those are my 5 winners. I have the Seahawks for 1. I've got the Saints for number 2. Number 3, I've got the Titans. Number 4, the Browns and the Giants. Those are my 5 winners this week. Here were my 5 losers from here. Obviously, number 5, I gotta put the I truly got to put the Baltimore Ravens here. Baltimore is becoming predictable. And now, again, I know they're without Lamar Jackson. I know they had to start RG3 because of COVID restrictions. Baltimore right now, the defenses was not the problem. Right now, since being 5-1, they have lost a lot of games. And this is not good. This is the generating of offense. This is the comfortability of the pocket, and then not to mention quality throws. And right now, Baltimore, they hit a spot. It's not gonna be good. They need to fix this because right now, I do feel like Baltimore is a competitive team, but defense is not the issue. This is where I'm just like, for as predictable as Lamar Jackson is, they have got to make this work. He cannot be one-dimensional. I got to see another version of Lamar Jackson here. The number 4, it's definitely got to be the Raiders. I'm not putting them this high, but here was the thing. What was that? What was that this week? I did not expect that out of the Raiders. That I did not see. That there, what I just saw was not Raider football. I'm going to promise you that. They got pummeled. Derek Carr coughed up the football multiple times. 2 interceptions. This was sloppy play. This was sloppy play this week. That's why they're number 4 losers this week, because that I better not see that against the Jets this upcoming week. I better not see that, because that there, I better put an asterisk this week. If I'm the Raiders, I better put an asterisk on this week and say that is not going to happen again. We need to be better than this. So I have them at number 4 as my losers this week. Number 3, the Dallas Cowboys. By the way, Jerry Jones, I have to say, Jerry, so this was the news here earlier. Jerry Jones apparently ended up going on, and because we all love Jerry Jones being on media. You can't go a single day without him peeping and then having to talk about. He doesn't even talk so much about his team as much. Do you ever notice that? He talks about his team, but he doesn't talk about his team's problems. So instead, he goes up into the media, rips Denver a new one, like he has no sympathy. Who cares? Who asked for your opinion, Jerry? Like, Jerry's the one guy, he's like the friend that he or she, they're cool, nice to hang out with, all this other stuff, but are so deep in worrying about other people's problems other than their own. And that's the part that I'm just like, Jerry, mind your business, okay? Worry about your own problems, okay? Because listen, John Elway knows he's held accountable for what happened with all the quarterbacks, okay? He's got to clean this. Drew Lock's got to be better than that. They have their problems. It's not your problem, Jerry, okay? I understand you're expressing your thoughts behind that, but that is not your problem. You are in your own world. Live in your own world. This is your chaos in Dallas. You paid a lot of people. You didn't pay Dak. The offensive line is so outdated, and the secondaries is not the strongest since Byron Jones left. So knock it off. Okay, but the Cowboys, they got embarrassed in Thanksgiving on a Thursday. And by the way, Antonio Gibson was the one who was the shining star. 3 touchdowns in that game. They got embarrassed. That was bad. That was all out bad. And beige water pistol, yeah. You could go ahead and throw an asterisk on it, Jerry, but you should be living in your own world. Stop worrying about everybody else's problems. Okay? You made the decision that you felt like a wide receiver was going to help you out. It's not. Okay? You needed more than just another wide receiver. Okay? Stop. Just get over yourself. Worry about your own problems. Dallas, for me, was definitely number 3. Number two on the losers here in this one. To me personally, I've got to put Philadelphia in this part because right now, this is a mess. This is an absolute mess. Carson Wentz all over the place, throwing accurate balls, but it's not getting to anybody. And there is too much mess. There's too much pressures in the room. I don't know who really to blame. What's going on, Prince John? But this is where I'm just like, I'm looking at Philadelphia. It's a mess. And the injuries, I know the coaching staff with Doug Peterson is in the air, but that was just all out bad. That was all out bad. And by the way, the defense, I will say, was definitely winners, but the offense was losers. That's why I'm like, Philadelphia was number 2 in the losers spot for me this week because this was just bad. The defense did everything they could to stopping Seattle in their tracks, especially on 4th down opportunities, which was very impressive. But this is just a mess. This is just an all-out mess in Philadelphia. So they're number 2. And then finally, the number 1 team that is big-time losers this week. You got to hand it to Denver. No quarterbacks. It's unfortunate, but they have to hold themselves accountable for it. They got to hold themselves accountable for it. And that's where they have to get better. John Elway right now, probably on the last ropes, but he's got to get this quarterback thing right. I don't think they're sold on Drew Lock, but at the same time, this was just bad. It was bad enough. Saints just steamrolled them 31-3. It was just all out bad. So there was my winners and losers. So, of course, my winners again at number one, definitely Seattle, the Saints, the Titans, the Browns, and the Giants were my 5. And then my 5 losers, my 5 losers this week. At number 5, I had the at number 5, I had the Ravens. Number 4, I had the Raiders. 3, I had the Cowboys, the Eagles, and then finally at number 1, I had the Broncos. So those were my 5 winners and losers of this week. So that's kind of the segment that I'll have for either Tuesday or Wednesday. I just know the NFL was all over the place. It was all over the place, but thank you guys so much for tuning in. We really do appreciate you guys. Tune in to me Saturday morning at 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to be having a lot. And of course, as always, my favorite segment as well, NFL Prime Predictions, Week 13. It's going to be a lot of fun. So real quick, here is from our good friends at Thrive Fantasy. Take a look at the offer that we've got.
What's up, fantasy champions? Spotlight Sports Network is excited to tell you about an amazing deal from Thrive Fantasy, your place for daily fantasy sports and esports. Right now with promo code SS Network, Thrive Fantasy will match up to $50 of your first deposit. So go to thrivefantasy.com and sign up now with promo code SS Network. That's thrivefantasy.com, promo code SS Network.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Well, we really do appreciate you guys jumping on, and glad you guys can hang out with me. Really do appreciate it. You guys have a great night. Have a great week, and we will see you Saturday. Take care.